Hey guys, Rob from Georgia here with you, aka VHS82 apostrophe with episode number 10. Yeah, I had a look. Red Museum, aka the Church of the Red Museum. Or as I was thinking as I was going through this episode, an alternative title could have been, I kind of liked it at the time when it first hit me. I'm not sure if I think the same now, but a novel theory, something Mulder says in the episode. And it just, when he said that within its context, it just kind of hit me. I thought, well, that would have been kind of a neat title. You could have gone a lot of different ways. Museum, though, Red Museum really is just part of what is happening here in this particular episode, with what Mulder and Scully are up against in this one. Red Museum dropped December 9th, 1994. I want to say Excelsius died. The next one is the last one before the new year. I'm pretty sure there's one more, and then we officially go into January 95. Directed by Phelps. He was a second unit director, if you did not know, on things like Logan's Run, The Outlaw Josie Wales, The Pack from 77. I thought that was interesting. Only one X-File episode out of the entire 11. Just one. He offers one, and that's a pretty darn good one as far as I'm concerned. There was a few interesting things amongst the cast. The sheriff in this one, played by Steve Eastin, we've seen him on things like A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I think he was a cop. Con Air, Field of Dreams, tons of TV stuff going back into the 70s and stuff. The cult, the religious cult of the Red Museum, the Church of the Red Museum, its leader, Richard Odin, played by Mark Rolston. I don't know if you are familiar or if that name rings any bells, but that was Private Drake, man. That was Drake from Aliens, from '86, James Cameron's Aliens. I thought that was pretty freaking cool. And then we have, okay, spoilers be, you know what? There we go. We have a returning cast member from an earlier episode known as the Erlenmeyer Flask. That was season 1, ending season finale for season 1. Makes a return here. Now, he was credited, his character name, I think, was the crew cut man in the season finale for season 1. Here he's credited, his character is named the Cleaner. And so a bit of a connection there to the Erlenmeyer Flask. This one, okay, so, all right. First of all, as with usually is the case, I revisited this one for the first time a couple days ago, upstairs in that environment. But then this morning, as it's become habit with me, I came down here early this morning, and in the pitch blackness of my movie room, I re-engaged it, and I found it this morning. I just was fascinated by just the moving parts, and there's really 3 moving parts here in this story. And by the way, this is written by Chris Carter as well. But first of all, this cult at the Red Museum, they really reminded me. I was watching it this morning, and all of a sudden, I don't know. Sometimes you get those thoughts in your mind. They just pop in from seemingly nowhere, and I'm thinking to myself, it reminds me an awful lot of the Hale Bopp crowd. You remember that? Hale Bopp? I want to say it was, without just continuing to look at my notes, I'm almost sure it was discovered in 1995. This was a comet that was pretty quickly approaching Earth. By 1997, it was hailed as the Great Comet of 97. But you had this religious group. Now, here you go. You remember Heaven's Gate? I want to say they were okay, let me look. They were founded in 74, that's what I thought. 74. I had no idea this group was around that long. I mostly knew them because of their association to the whole Hale Bopp comment. But they began in 74, and by the time Hale Bopp shows up, there's this, if you're familiar with Art Bell, and I'm dropping the episode down there. If you're curious to hear it at all, I think it was the first episode he did that concerned this Hale Bopp, the discovery of Hale Bopp. The running idea by some was that there might be a spaceship, a UFO, flying in the tail of the comet. And very, very, very unfortunately, this cult group, the Seven Gates, they decided ultimately in the end in 97, I think it was 90, I want to say it was 90, yeah, it's 97. There was 39 active members in the group, and they committed mass suicide. They believed that they were going to be teleported to the spaceship in the tail of the comet. Do you remember any of this? I could not help when I'm watching this episode. It so reminded me of just staying up late or being up late in the middle of the night, listening to Art Bell and listening to some of these episodes. And then, of course, the news broke when they, as a group committed suicide, mass suicide. And I'm just like, how crazy do you got to be? And so, but that group stretched all the way back to 74. So I mean, nostalgia, right? In the sense of things that we probably forgot about, but knew of at the moment. But anyways, this group of the Red Museum, I don't know, it's just, anytime you start hearing them espouse certain aspects of their belief, the one thing that Heaven's Gate said right before they left this plane of existence to join the mothership, they saw it as a graduation from the human evolutionary level. It just remind me of this group. Okay, so like with the Red Museum, you got Cattle Country, man. Cattle Country USA. I think it's in Wisconsin. They decide to buy up this one ranch and literally turn it into a church where the cattle become the pets, and they are not a very popular crowd in this community. These kids start coming up missing, and then they're found in the woods, just wandering in the woods, and they're marked with either he is the one, she is the one. And it doesn't take long for the sheriff of the town, who I absolutely love this character. I thought he was a standout in this episode, especially the scene involving him at the very end. Very emotional moment. Unfortunately, it pulls the rug out from under what Mulder really wanted in the end, and that was to have this one individual caught alive, not dead, as to figure out deeper level questions. And so, the sheriff reaches out to the FBI, and so Mulder and Scully hit to this small town. I want to say it was Delta, or something like that, Delta, Wisconsin, something like that. And so automatically the sheriff directs them to the Red Museum religious cult group. He just assumes somehow they're in it. Now you got, as I said, 3 major moving pieces that I thought were brilliant. The Red Museum crowd. Then you've got on the other side, you've got this old man that begins to open up what may really, in fact, be happening to Mulder and Scully. But tucked in between those 2 major moving pieces, which the Red Museum takes up a lot of the first half of this episode, and the other piece takes up the remainder, and then the Red Museum crowd comes back in at the end for an interesting yet very awkward moment between townspeople and itself. You have this peeping Tom, so sort of like bridges the two, and what's really weird is he ultimately confesses to kidnapping these kids, but the story never goes into what exactly he was doing. Now, the one boy who goes missing, football player who's found wandering out in the woods, it's him and his mom that become the central characters for Mulder and Scully in their investigative efforts. And they come to find out that this building that they live in is actually owned by this peeping Tom, who has taken up residence in an adjoining room that they had no idea existed in their home. And he's running a video camera and building up a pile of videotapes of things, whatever he can see or not see. Dude is severely just a whack job. but they never tell you what he's completely guilty of in terms of what did he do. Now, the furthest they go is you find out that he at once had used this building. I think he was in charge of a daycare or something. So that just opens up horrific things in your mind. But he's like the bridge between, on the one side, you've got this religious cult who everyone in town just automatically thinks are guilty. And then you've got this old man who, sort of points the way to this much greater conspiracy, that this is actually maybe a la Crazies, Romero's Crazies. This may be a government ops job of just like, doing a controlled experiment or, an experiment on the town. And they're using the Red Museum as a control group and people in the town. And there's a doctor, pretty pivotal moment in the episode where this doctor who delivered a number of these kids has been basically they've been guinea pigs for him, and ultimately his plane him and the pilot, they crash, and that sort of exposes a much wider look at this ever-growing conspiracy. And then you have a moment where, as two cars are passing, Scully seems to recognize a face in the other vehicle. This face ultimately will be the one we see in the very closing moments of the Erlenmeyer flask, who in this episode is the cleaner. He is trying to very quickly, towards the end of the episode, clean up their keep secret this experiment, which ultimately is, we find out in the end, injecting the kids with alien DNA to see what happens. And so this, in a lot of ways is sort of a pseudo extension. It's an extension of the Erlenmeyer flask, which the whole emphasis or focus on the Red Museum sort of throws you off a little bit. And then, like I said, towards the end, as we're racing towards the resolution of the episode, there's in order to keep those in question safe, the Red Museum becomes a safe haven for them. And that moment is a little awkward, man. When you got them coming in, and even though Odin, the leader, he's sort of led to believe that these cult members they're not as whacked out as maybe you might be led to think, although it's still kind of whacked out, but not near as whacked out. Maybe they're not the villains in this episode. So that's a huge spoiler, right? They're not the villains. Our main villains are connected to this season 1 finale, which I thought was an absolutely brilliant way of revisiting and continuing to build this ever-growing arc that is our mythology, our story, right? And so I just thought that was some pretty standout acting too. Odin, the religious cult leader, he's pretty good. But the sheriff just stand out for me. I don't know why. I just got a kick every time he sort of came into the story and he had a chance to be a part of things going on. I think that's about it, I guess. I think Chris Carter really did a fine job writing this. And I think, to me, I think one of the better things is not getting terribly too deep in the scene when they catch this peeping Tom and they have him in for questioning. It's interesting. We'll see this again. Actually, it made me think about this with Scully. She comes in the room. She won't sit next to him. She kind of keeps her distance. And we'll see that revisited in the I Want to Believe movie with that one character. She don't want anything to do. She just want anything to do with that. Rightfully so, right? I mean, rightfully so. And there's even a moment with Mulder towards the end of his talking to this guy. He'll get a look on his face like, let's just end it here. Mulder in this one has some of the funny, and I don't say funny to be like funny, But there are several moments where he just gives this facial expression, and man, I just wanted to roll, and I just absolutely loved it. I think David Duchovny was really, really in this one good. I mean, I think he was really vibing it out on this one. You could tell. It was, all in all, from start to finish, it was a pretty good episode. Yeah, really good. I really enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun. And it's almost too bad this guy only gave us one episode. I think it's too bad he couldn't have contributed more to the mythology arc later on, further on down the road. But, it is what it is. Sometimes you're just lucky enough to get one. So the Red Museum, or the Church of the Red Museum, Hale Bopp of all things. So as I said, I'm going to drop that link down there. And if you're interested in a little Art Bell nostalgia, that I made it easy for you, and I pulled it from Spotify. And our last pod me and Glenn did, I think, was Shocker and the Horror Shows, down right underneath that, I think. So anyways, we keep rolling on with the X-Files. Excelsius died next, and I think that closes out 1994, and we move on into 1995. So always, as always, go Bills.
This is not a dream. Not a dream.
We might be useful to you.